Hello, welcome to another tonalist landscape oil painting demonstration. This is your painter in residence, M. Francis McCarthy, and the painting I'm bringing you today is called Creek at Sunset. And I have presented this painting before. This video is going to be a longer and higher res version of the one that I put up back in June 23rd. And the reason I'm putting this up is well, first of all, some of the more popular, this was fairly popular, I don't know why, maybe it was on someone's playlist or something, or people just like it, but it was put out at a 720 resolution, so we're putting it out at the old 1080, it'll be a little bigger, and a little less sped up, yeah. This painting was pretty awesome for me at the time, because I had just recently jumped into doing the textured boards, and I'm not even sure where the painting is. I think I sold it. I'm pretty sure I sold it. I know I sold it. Anyway, I'm planning on doing it as a 7x14 coming up, so I thought, wait, why not? I was going through some reference flood damage stuff, and oh, that's the other thing. So this is why I'm representing this video today. Is yeah, the contractor is in there, and he's I don't know for how long. It's a very simple job, but I don't know when I had everything put back together. In fact, you could go to my Instagram or my Facebook and you'll see a video of the studio looking very much like it did before without the carpet. And then I got the word from the management that the contractor's coming in, and the contractor was in a hurry, but I guess he's not. You know, if you've ever dealt with contractors, you know what I'm talking about. So whatever, I'm relaxed. I've been doing work at home. I've been putting a lot of extra efforts into my my Facebook page, and you can find a link to that underneath the video. And I don't just like I'll put up some of the sped up videos that I do on YouTube there, but I also do like interesting auxiliary content. Like there was a video about the Robert Simmons brushes I use and things like that. I'm sorry if you hear some background noise. There's a guy doing some work on our yard right now, so he's shoveling rocks, so you may hear some of that. Anyway, I got one painting done this week. Unfortunately, it's kind of a commission, and I don't want to share it until it's done. Yeah, so it's actually in a state where it's shareable, but you know, I feel that the person that had commissioned the piece has obviously got first right to apprehend the painting being done. And I don't do a lot of commissions, so I'm not really sure what the etiquette is, but I'm going off of what I think's right, like I always do. Yeah, so here we are back in looking at this painting done back in 2018, and it was pretty strong. And one of the things that was going well for me back then in that session was that the simplification, and I just had an idea about doing more saturated color with greater simplification. And also I have to say that the 5x10 format that I'm working in here was new to me at the time, so that was also cool, because well, believe it or not, there was a time I didn't really paint sunsets. I thought, sunsets, what a cliche. No, I mean, I'm always painting some kind of twilight or sunset thing, you know, but I have made my peace with it, because it's not a cliche the way I do it, right? I know how to avoid the hackneyed cliche tropes that are, you know, part of a lot. And I mean, the masters did it beautifully, the tonalists did it beautifully, but I grew up in the 60s and 70s, and you would see so much hackneyed painting, you know, just stuff that really gave landscape painting a bad name, I have to say. I figure that's one of the lowest points of landscape painting, was the kind of stuff that was popular in the 60s and 70s. It was just so much of it was dreck. I mean, there were some people doing good work, like Richard Schmid was around. He was working. He's great, you know, but there was an awful lot of stuff that was like Ashcan School meets Impressionism meets Bob Ross. or simplified, semi-abstracted Bob Ross. I don't know. I don't dislike Bob Ross, by the way, especially when Bob Ross is just doing Bob Ross. But when you take that speed painting and you apply it to other stuff, it's like, yeah, speaking of speed painting, look how fast I'm painting this, eh? Whoa. This is sped up. Although I have to say, this actual painting didn't take a super long time to do. Um, yeah. I'm trying to remember what happened to it. I'm trying to remember where it is, if I still own it. I don't think I do. I think I sold it. That's the problem too. You lose track of things. I'll have to look in I have a little folder where I keep that kind of thing. But you're like, oh well, yeah, well and good, Mike. We're not just looking at the painting. We want tips, man. Tips, tips, tips. Okay, there's a good tip for you. You don't take any wooden. Yeah, that's also aging me. Don't take any wood nickels. We always simplify your forms and shapes, okay, and always tie things together. Like I have, oh, this is one thing I wanted to talk about because since I've been on the old Facebook and I'm dedicating time in the morning to getting familiar with it. I don't actually really like most social media very much, but given the state of the world with the pandemic and all that going around, I think online opportunities to sell art are really where it's at, and I have been selling quite a lot of art through my store and through people that support my channel, by buying paintings and things like that, and I really appreciate that. In fact, that's just so awesome because it does give me an opportunity to keep going, even though where my studio is, I was really relying on tourism to sell most of the work out of my studio. I have some local buyers, and that's always growing too, so I don't want to diminish them or their importance to what I do. But these days, let's face it, if you're a painter, you have to pretty much work every angle you can. So I'm on Facebook, I'm doing things. But getting back to my point here, um, I have to say that 80% of what I see labeled as tonalism has almost zero bearing on what tonalism is. I don't know a lot of times what it is that they're doing, but I know it's not tonalism. And that's okay. I mean, it's actually not so bad that the term is getting spread around, even if it's being misappropriated to artwork that doesn't actually qualify as tonalist. And there's I won't name names, very popular channel here on YouTube, um, a lot more popular than mine, gosh knows, and all good to him. And I actually like a lot of this fellow's work, but he calls this stuff tonalism, and it's not tonalism. Some of it maybe is tonal, but a lot of it's more like, I don't know what it is. I'm not an expert in these things, but I am an expert when it comes to tonalism and what constitutes tonalism. And really, it's this simple. There must be a unifying tone or harmony running through the painting that pulls everything together. Now, this can oftentimes mean that the painting comes out a bit darker than you might like. A real master can get a painting that's still light and tonal. And I should say I have seen some amazing work that is most definitely tonalism and that's one of the great things too, is discovering painters and artists out there that you weren't aware of, and sharing their work or commenting on it, even if it's just to say, wow, this is cool. And I don't actually have a huge issue with someone starting out saying, oh, I'm doing tonalism. It's like, okay, keep at it, because at some point you may actually get good and you may actually figure out what tonalism actually is. But I mean, I've told you, but it's like poetry. That's the other thing. I have had I've written poetry in my life, not a lot of it because I'm not really a big fan, but I do songs and song lyrics, and I had a class in poetry. I did very well in that class. I understand what poetry is and how hard it is to accomplish, because poetry is not linear. And poetry doesn't. You can't just apprehend it with your intellect. It has to be uh, perceived at a deep emotional and even spirit sort of level. And tonalism is another way to define tonalism is a poetic approach to painting. In many ways, it's not linear. It's full of feeling and emotion. I guess the other thing I want to say is I have seen things that qualify as tonalism. They're just bad, but whatever. I I think it's well, everyone wants to share what they do, but frankly, I didn't share, and I haven't shared most of the terrible things I've done on YouTube or in galleries or any of that. But I did have a pretty good advantage in that I was before I was a oil painter, I was a commercial artist for 13 years solid. And the way I got that job is because I had pretty good skills at rendering and illustrating. But by the time I came to the end of that job, I definitely knew what the difference was between something that was good and something that was mediocre. And if I wasn't clear on it, the marketplace made it very clear quite often. And there's a lot of things in the marketplace that might do well, even if they're not that good. But that's not the case so much with commercial art. It certainly wasn't the case with a lot of the, because I was involved with t-shirt art and things like that. You have some amazing art that's going on these shirts, and you better know how to compete, and you better know what the difference is between good and okay. Because if you don't know that difference, how can you do something that's great? I know it sounds self-explanatory, and it also may sound like I'm a little arrogant, which I don't mean to come off that way. The fact of the matter is that I just know. And even knowing that stuff, having had a 13-year career as a commercial artist, which overlapped with the painting career by about 2 or 3 years, I would maybe do an excellent, very saleable illustration at work, and then come home and do a mediocre painting, and that would be just as simply because painting is not illustration; they're not the same thing. There is a lot of overlap, and illustrators can paint and painters can illustrate, but it's two different disciplines, really. It's two different mindsets, and there's a lot of things that just won't work very well in a painting. And I guess another thing I'd say, because I got another minute here, is I see people teaching. One guy's teaching on Instagram a class on composition, and his example in to sell the course has, to my mind, a flawed composition where he's just plunked a bunch of trees in the middle of the scene. It's actually quite nicely painted, but it's not a brilliant painting because the composition isn't brilliant. But he's teaching you a class in composition, okay? So whatever. I came across another site called the Atelier or something like that. It looks by the painters there are excellent painters. I won't give the full name of the site or their names because whatever. They're giving you a lot of what I give you, but they're charging, okay? And I think that's great. I wouldn't mind getting paid either, to be honest, but when I look at what's involved in setting up something like that, it just takes too much time away from the painting. So what I tend to do is just photograph what I do, give you a few tips, and tell you to work hard. And I'm saving you a lot of money, because if you just follow that advice, you'll be golden. You'll be set. One day, though, I would like to get into a bit more actual laid out and instructional sort of approach. We'll see, but I need to have more do re mi floating around to get it up off the ground. I have to say that. Anyway, our video has almost come to a close. Sorry I don't have something brand new for you, but I think you'll enjoy this, and I know a lot of people don't dig down into the bowels of the channel, so hopefully you enjoyed this representation of this painting, and I'm proud of it even now. And I'll be back real soon with another video. Meanwhile, do me a favor, take good care, and stay out of trouble.